You know, so as soon, a lot, that's why I tell a lot of people, this knowledge of self, going all the way back to even Nation of Islam, is very westernized.
Mm.
And the way it's taught, and the way we got it, we also taught it very westernized, you know, the accumulation of knowledge. Right? In the East, though, they don't deal with the accumulation of knowledge. They deal with the getting rid of what's wrong. So the mentality is different, right?
And destroying first and then...
Yeah, so we could always be like, we have to accumulate. We may not look at the things that and dealing with relationships, there's actually a lot of elimination you got to do. There's a lot of things you got to get rid of, like you can't be doing that. You got to let go of that.
Yes.
That ain't the thing you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
And just as a historical fact, just the way the history was, Scots weren't good at that. They weren't great at that. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't have solid lives. You know what I mean? They were supposed to go through the street academy here when it was a street academy, and they would go through college through that, and someone did Umala, Dumar, Aline, and others went through it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they would also be very equipped, though, with still building families and stuff. Especially, though, with this, no matter what, really was, and still is, a revolutionary concept. You know?
So the other component to that is like, in terms of dealing with family dynamics, it becomes like, when you're in that relationship between man and woman, it's man and woman, then it's king and queen, then it's God and earth. There's levels to this relationship growing, right?
Yeah.
And so, when you're in these relationships, you really are holding up a mirror to your flaws, to your triggers, to your traumas that you probably don't even know you even have, or deny or suppress so long. So now you're in a relationship with a grown-ass adult like yourself, and now you're sitting here living with each other, and you got to deal with all the traumas and triggers, and you may not be skilled.
Right.
So it's like when people like, because I'm a DV counselor, for instance, you can look up the definition of what domestic violence is, but do you have the tools and the skills to deal with it, to detect it, to see what the red flags, to see the trauma responses? So now you got to zig through a sister's traumas the same way we got to deal with y'all's. You know what I mean? And folks are not having those skill sets to be able to have a nurturing, loving, healing relationship. It becomes like we attracted to each other, we start studying something, we fasted, we making families and shit. You know what I mean? Like it's like Uncle Ben's rice. You know what I mean? Like add water and microwaving this shit. You know what I mean? And it's like that's not really how real life is. Like you have to go through all these, transitions, and so how we do that effortlessly without causing more damage, or we are committing to the time that it takes, because that's another thing. People doing this cancel culture, they're so quick to like, I'm gonna just get a new chick and look at that. You know what I mean? And so then that's another layer of I'm gonna swipe to the left and bag another shorty. You know what I mean? Like they're not really like invested. They could be invested in learning these lessons, but you're not even investing in your black woman when she's having all this emotional imbalance, when she's bare life. Or the postpartum care. Do you know what that postpartum looks like? Whether it's depression, whether she's nervous properly. It's like, y'all, not y'all, but I'm just saying some men only invested in like making the baby's the best part, but you can't even care for your woman if she falls ill, you know what I'm saying? Or have a trauma from the childbirth, you know what I mean?
Absolutely,
y'all the first ones that's there to care for us, you know what I mean? So why wouldn't you not care of what tools that you need for her recovery? And this child that is solely relying on the mother for at least the first 2 years, especially if she's breastfeeding and all that. So it becomes, how do you support this black woman when she's breastfeeding? Are you picking up the proper foods?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, are you preparing it yourself?
And these are things that these are things that we can say probably were not thought of. I think
make babies,
as time went on, I would say that there are many gods that really did figure it out. With Earths, you see it now.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that was never none.
You do
see
it.
What I'm saying, but yes,
you do see it.
But in the majority haven't.
Yeah.
Because they don't have that.
And now that people understand the ideas of the relationship, I still say that I still think that the main reason that many relationships dissolve when gods have relationships on Earth, a lot of it has to do with this knowledge. The sacrifice of this knowledge. Like, I don't know if this is something that they're making knowledge born to their earth, but like when we get the knowledge, right? Like the way we got it, like no matter what we make, family we make, we're still supposed to be out there. in the street doing something. There's still supposed to be something going out in the street.
I agree.
You know, and being in tune with that.
I agree.
And that leads a difficult lifestyle. Like sometimes people want it to be over. In my experience, they're
Only
waiting.
because
Like
it's a
in other words,
base
yeah,
and
or in other words, you've done enough to retire.
Got it.
You know, and in my experience, it was like, you ain't done with this. Like, and I'm like, this should never end. No. This should never end. You know, we're always, you know, you still going to school? It's Thursday. You know? And the thing is, I get that with everything I do. So, like, remember we was talking before?
Yeah.
Everything I do, it's supposed to end sometime. So, because
they
I
have
get-
an expectation of
yeah.
what your greatness looks like.
so even like let's say women I deal with or like talk to and stuff, they're always waiting for like, when do I stop training? When do I stop writing? When do I stop reading? When do I stop, you know, teaching? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, these shits don't end.
Because that's coming from a space of a system that's trying to govern God. If we're not
Right.
here to govern God,
They
we're
shit
here
don't
to
end.
experience God
Yeah,
and share
you know?
our love with God. We're
Yeah.
not here to govern you to tell
And the
you
thing
what
is
to
though,
do.
like, you
And
know what's
that's not
interesting, right? Is that I spent so much time trying to figure out how to do all of these things without taking away from my children's time.
Yeah, that's hard.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
the hardest part, yeah.
So none of my children, none of them could say that, you know, he took time from us because he was always doing this kung fu stuff or he was always doing the writing stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I always, for some reason, was able to find every single empty moment.
All praise due.
You know what I'm saying? If they play with somebody else, I'm like, I'm writing. You know, oh, you playing with your cousin? You know, yeah. You know what I mean? Or I'm waking up, crack of dawn, you know, and doing it. They wake up and it's like, oh, I'm almost finished. Give me 5 minutes. You know what I mean? And that's all they get. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all they have to deal with. So when you do all that, it's even if your children will accept it because they grow up knowing that that's the way. Like my youngest though wouldn't understand if I wasn't doing kung fu. Like it wouldn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? They don't know a life like, and certainly my oldest one though. You know what I mean?
You must do your own research, as I did.
If Mecca did this.